Welcome in, everybody. There's probably going to be quite a few more people joining us in a minute. I've got Nicola and Helen from the team here with me as well, so that's why you can see them as well. But they're from the project team, so they're on hand to sort of support and answer any questions in the chat, and also send any links that might be relevant, and yeah, just help let people in as they go into the lobby while I kickstart the presentation. It's quite a big one. There's quite a lot to update on. I've tried to sort of essentially summarize most of what we've done throughout the project, as well as include quite a few things that we've got coming up in 2026 as well. So it may drag over as a heads up, but I'll do my best to try and keep to the count. I've probably got about less than 1 minute per slide going off the time, so I'll be kind of breezing through. We are recording, which is why everyone's got no microphone and no camera, just because obviously then that means we don't have any issues with having to edit anyone out, etc., when we've got the recording done. But if you do want to ask any questions at all throughout the presentation, do pop your messages into the chat, and as I said, Helen and Nicola can help out, and then if we've got a few minutes towards the end, I'll answer any questions and things as well. Right, okay. People, I'm sure, will join as we're a couple of minutes into it, but I'm going to get the presentation ready to share now, given that it's quite a large update and we might be a bit pressed for time. Just another final heads up before I begin. I do have a 4-month-old in the house, so if you do hear some screaming in the background, don't be concerned. It's just a little one trying to get to bed, probably, or being overtired. Okay, so I'm going to begin sharing my screen. Okay, so while I'm sharing my screen, I don't think I'll be able to see what's going on in the chat, but I can see some of your faces on the side. I can see Helen and Nicola, so you can wave at me or message me or unmute yourselves or interrupt me if there's any issues. So yeah, do pop in the chat if you have any difficulty. And I'll start beginning. Yeah, as expected, there's probably a couple of people that will be joining us partway through. So some people might be entirely aware of the project and wanted a bit of an update, or it also might be some people who haven't engaged at all with the project before. We are obviously recording this, so this will work as a really nice introduction to the project and what we're trying to achieve as a whole. So please do forgive us and bear with us if there's a few bits that you might already be aware of that we're re-going over, but it also might serve as a nice little reminder of some of the things that we've achieved throughout the project as well. So first off, we've got the team. So here's sort of who we've got at the minute. I haven't changed Nelson's picture, I've just realised. So yeah, Nelson doesn't look like that. That's Alex. That's our old River Restoration Officer. We've got Nicola, who's obviously with us today, and Helen. We've got Joe, and Joe, who's the other River Restoration Officer, Jen with Education and Training, myself. We've got Natalie, and then we've got our 2 lovely trainees this year as well, in Sam and Kamala. And then we've had 2 trainees each year. A lot of the trainees have gone on to work either closely in the area, in the environmental sector, or I mean, one of them's moved quite further away as well, but again, works in the environmental sector as well. And they've been absolutely brilliant forces of nature, essentially, for us throughout the sort of the whole work through the project. And there's been a few staff members that have kind of joined and left as well. So full credit to them too. If anyone of them watches this back as well, that bit might be quite nice for them to stay updated. You can find more information about our team on our project website as well, and there'll be quite a few times throughout today. I'll probably link to the project website or mention it, so any further research can be done by yourselves. So essentially, what is the Sherbourne Valley Project? The aim is to restore both to people and to nature and wildlife the River Sherbourne throughout Coventry. So the main aim essentially is throughout this whole project overview area that you can see on this map here. So there's some of the tributaries along the river, but also the main stretch of the River Sherbourne is quite a big focus of the area where we're looking at, and that includes delivering events, delivering restoration efforts, engaging people, providing information, providing resources, providing interpretation, and a whole host more as well, providing training, for example, as well, and sort of facilitating volunteers and local people to look after their local patch. So that's sort of the area in terms of engagement with the public. But obviously for wildlife as well, there's a lot of benefits to that, and things we'll talk about throughout the slides, where we've seen some real benefit to wildlife as well through the restoration efforts that we put in. So the river starts up in Corley Moor, is the source of the river. It goes down through Coventry, it goes into a culvert through the city centre, and then it comes out and forms a confluence with the Sow at the south of the city. It's about 9 miles long, I believe, in total. And yeah, we'll go. The way I've kind of structured this, because it's quite hard to cover everything that a project does, is I've kind of tried to do it area by area. So I'll kind of focus on each area at a time, kind of looking at some of the key areas. So again, I've sort of mentioned here about the general aim for people. I'm just going to move this to the side just in case it actually records from my screen. So Helen and Nicola, I can now sort of see only the left-hand side of your screen. So wave at me with that hand if there's any issues. Okay, just clicking back on the presentation. So yeah, essentially I've kind of described the vision of what the project is trying to achieve, but the project as a whole is delivered by us, called the Sherbourne Valley Project Team, but we're operated within the Warwickshire Wildlife Trust. Now, there's a project board which many different organisations sit on, and it's sort of primarily National Lottery Heritage funded project. But there's quite a few other organisations throughout Coventry which sit on our project board, which have supported within the funding of our project as well. And the project is going to last until the end of this year, but we've got an extension until March 2027 to finish the delivery of anything kind of that's left over within the kind of last few months to kind of make that a bit of an easier transition progress. So let's progress on to the next slide. So there's 3 sort of main areas that we are delivering in terms of the restoration of the River Sherbourne and kind of how we're engaging people within Coventry as well. So there's 3 means. The first of these is natural heritage. So obviously that makes sense in terms of the river restoration, some of the kind of the water focuses. And that can be through some of the natural restoration features that we've delivered, be it installing ponds, scrapes, some of the in-river works, training some of the volunteers to help look after nature and sort of enabling that process, but also facilitating really regular monthly sessions where volunteers can support in terms of litter picking or brush cutting or coppicing, that sort of activity. We've also done loads of events and nature walks as well, which is partly in terms of engaging with the public, but it can also be facilitating and upskilling people in terms of wildlife and how to look after wildlife, how to identify wildlife, that sort of thing as well. We've produced some project films, and we're kind of in finalising the production of a couple more as well, and one of those will be a wildlife specific film. We've also got lots of pictures of wildlife that's along the River Sherbourne that can be found in different areas on our project website, and some of those were submitted to us by some of our close volunteers that we work alongside as well. Les and Rich, 2 of those that have really supported that project. But we've also been having a long-standing effort to camera trap and get lots of footage of nature that exists along the River Sherbourne as well. We're hoping to, throughout February, do a bit of a social push where we do essentially a post a day where we're kind of sharing some of the really positive things that have come out of the project, and obviously sharing some of the footage of the nature that we've captured as well will be a key part of that. Interpretation and accessibility, providing information and really engaging people with wildlife and nature. River management I've kind of covered a bit in terms of the restoration, and similar for litter picking and invasive management. That's kind of some of the activities that our regular volunteers get up with. Cultural heritage is the sort of second part of the trio. So that's actually more of the, the engagement side of things, where we put on creative events, we get creative, we sort of encourage people to celebrate the River Sherbourne and to celebrate kind of contributing to nature as well, and being part of that. That all ties into some of the wider trust goals in terms of action for nature and sort of, Team Wilder, which really encourage people to get out and actually be positively acting towards contributing to nature. So the biggest one of those that we do every year is our annual River Festival. So that's a really, really big event that obviously Helen has been delivering the last couple of years, and will be delivering this year as well. And that really has all sorts of kind of different arts, music, different stalls, different theatre performances, whole host of different colours and crafts and different ways people to engage with over the course of a weekend. So that's a Saturday and a Sunday. And yeah, we really invite everyone along. That's a free festival as well. We've done it at Fargo Village the last 2 years, and we're just sort of in the process of deciding and kind of confirming essentially where we're doing the River Festival this year. Again, similarly, we kind of mentioned some of the films and some of the social footage that we're putting out. Connecting to the river as well essentially is the ultimate goal of engaging people. So whilst we're encouraging and facilitating action for nature, I think it's quite a key part of it to inform people and to kind of really make people make connections to the river, because if you don't know enough about it to learn about it, you can't really be interested enough to protect it. So really sharing, educating people and getting them to develop a sense of connection to the river via various means through our sort of whole host of events is all part of what we're looking to do. So I'll progress a bit further now, because some of those are kind of touch on to more of our events as well, which I'll also talk about a bit later. But the third part of the trio is built heritage. So really trying to get people to not only appreciate the nature that's along the River Sherbourne, but also the sort of the buildings and the kind of cultural history as well that's associated with it. So that could be celebrating the sluice gates, for example, that are along the River Sherbourne, some of the bridges that go along, that go over the river, such as Vignolles Bridge or Whitley Abbey Bridge, and just sort of celebrating the sort of long-standing history of people engaging with the river and essentially building around the river as Coventry was built from the ground up. I'll move on quickly. It's important to understand when you're picturing the whole River Sherbourne and what we're trying to achieve with the project, that actually it's quite a varied catchment. So there's sections of the river that are very picturesque and look very natural, and it's kind of the work we do there is more engaging people with nature and really allowing people to see how wonderful a river can be. But there's other sections that you can't even access, for example, the culvert area under the city centre, or there's sections which are a bit run down and need a bit of a clean up as well. So kind of bear that in mind as we go along the River Sherbourne and kind of understand the sort of different outputs that we're doing in different areas. It's quite a varied catchment. It's not a sort of picturesque river the entire way along, and we've had to kind of take different approaches with different areas to kind of get the maximum amount out of what we want to achieve. So a revisit back to the project area with our lovely project mascot, Lady Gooddiver, assisting us by holding up the picture here. Essentially, the plan was to capture and really engage people in certain key areas, and these key areas obviously are more likely to be better for engaging people through events, have facilities, have kind of the proper amount of space where we can actually offer some restoration as well, or do some restoration work. So those have kind of become our sort of key sites on that map that you can see there, and then it's through there that we're going to look at each individual site to kind of understand what we've done in those locations. So we'll go kind of top down. So the first kind of most northerly area that's kind of a key site that we're looking at is Cowden Wedge. So that's a green space up in the north of Coventry. It's quite a large area as well, and it's really, really sort of important to the local people, and they're really do a lot of sort of advocating for it as maintaining it as a green site, which is really lovely to see. So a couple of things to cover, essentially what we do at Cowan and Wedge. So we had a really large restoration work effort that was in, I believe, started in 2023 and kind of finished up a bit more kind of over the years. We've added a few more things to it. There's an existing group called Alderney and Cowan and Wedge Conservation Society there that we engage with quite heavily throughout a lot of our events and volunteering, and sort of, you know, kind of we support each other in terms of facilitating protection of the area, essentially. I just mentioned volunteering there, but another thing we do is riverfly testing. So we do that quite a lot of areas, but Cowan and Wedge is one of the kind of key sites for that as well. We've thrown a couple of events there, and we're looking to implement some interpretation there as well. So each slide is kind of go into a bit more detail. So the restoration project that we did in this area was called Stage Zero Restoration. So the term Stage Zero refers to the time when in an area where there is essentially before any human interaction. So it's taking back the area to essentially its natural roots of how it would form and how it would essentially geographically look without any human influence. So yeah, it started in September 2023. We carried out that restoration works. So the next slide is a bit more kind of graphic, which will kind of help us actually visualize and see what we did. But it's important to understand why we've done it as well. So we had a LiDAR scan of the area, and when we kind of looked at the different sites along the river, it's important to note, by the way, that this is actually one of the tributaries that we're talking about here, which is the North Brook, and not directly onto the River Sherbourne. But essentially, it kind of, you know, understanding why we've done the actions. We took a visit to the area. We could see that there was kind of this area in the centre of these kind of two fields where there was some historic wetland plants, where you'd get some flood waters when it's kind of, you know, high rainfall, and where sort of naturally it's kind of the centre of essentially a valley where the river would look to be. Now, we had a LiDAR scan and that kind of proved it. Essentially, it's called a paleo channel, so kind of this historic channel where the river would have been, and it had been moved by obviously the farm and landowners due, you know, in history, due to kind of obviously boundary setting, but it probably been moved over to the side of the wedge, and it meant it was kind of inaccessible to both wildlife and people. And it also had to travel through some culverts and weirs, which just meant that it was kind of a barrier for any fish migration as well. So it kind of, by allowing it to sort of flow in its natural path, we overcame those problems. We meant that obviously we could reconnect it to its floodplain. It could filter out a lot more nutrients by going through this wetland area that it kind of reconnected to, which would then obviously increase the water quality going you know, further down into the catchment. And yeah, would be a lot more accessible to both people and nature. So the next one kind of is the graphic to show. So in the center, you've got this sort of blue area, whereas the kind of the main wetland kind of area of wetland plants that we kind of identified, but you can kind of see that all along that sort of blue line as well, which is kind of where we've got the new channel. And so we did that by right-hand side, you can see that sort of zigzag line of trees, which is where the, you know, the channel had been moved to. So we lowered the banks and kind of filled in the channel, which then allowed the water to kind of fill and hit that paleo channel, flow towards that wetland, and then naturally come out down at the other end and reconnect with the brook again, where we lowered the bank again just to kind of support that and make sure there was no hiccups essentially with kind of water spreading out over the surface. It was a major success, and it looks brilliant today. We've added some bridges. That's a photo from quite early on, where the water was kind of still setting and starting to carve its way, carve its own channel essentially downwards, where the sort of water is very visible, kind of flat over the surface. But nowadays it looks a bit more kind of narrow, and it's really carved its own path. We've recently done a small kind of revisit to the area to add some further gravels to some areas where the sort of natural clay in the area was quite a bit too soft, and it was kind of really gouging down, and we didn't want to kind of cause the river, the brook to gouge too far downwards. So we've added some gravels in to mitigate that, and that's been again another success. So after that project as well, we removed the sill traps, working with Aldsley Cannon Wedge Conservation Society, and that's kind of a bit of a before and after picture. Other things we've done in the area is balsam bashing. So we've done each year a couple of sessions up on the wedge to tackle Himalayan balsam, which is an invasive plant species, which is highly spreadable and essentially really outcompetes a lot of the local nature. So we often host lots of different sessions to kind of tackle Himalayan balsam, and Cannon Wedge was one of the areas where we did this. And I did mention river fly testing before as well here, but something to note as well is that we found in our river fly testing, I believe it was at City Nature Challenge last year, it might have been kind of around that time, but not quite during the challenge itself. We found stonefly, which is sort of key indicator species within river fly testing. And that is a sort of species that you only tend to see in really high oxygenated, really clean water environments. So you tend to only really kind of see it towards sort of mountainous areas, or essentially it's a really good indicator for very clean water. So that's a very good positive kind of result to show that the work we've done to essentially restore the brook to kind of its natural path has really made a positive impact on improving the water quality. We're also in the process of setting up a new volunteering opportunity in Cannon Wedge. So Sam from our one of our trainees is kind of in the process of this. I believe he had his first volunteering session on the wedge yesterday. And yeah, he's working kind of with some of the Aldsley Cannon Wedge Conservation Society group as well to identify some of the areas that need some support. And I believe their first session was in the Wedgwood, doing a bit of coppicing and sort of more kind of tree related tasks. But in the future, they're going to be looking at kind of some different areas as well, and potentially some meadow work. So we don't have a kind of definitive dates going forwards for that, because that's kind of still in the process of being set up. But yeah, keep your eyes peeled for that. We'll be promoting that online, on our project website and on our Facebook socials. And I believe Sam's been putting up some posters around the area as well with the QR code to kind of find out more events for the next ones that are put on. So he's hoping for that to be a sort of more monthly volunteering offer, like similarity to a lot of the other ones that we do in different areas. Okay. In terms of interpretation in the space, so we're currently working on some listening stations, which we're working with Juno Projects to deliver. Now, that's going to be across several areas. So kind of we're just kind of covering this early within the Cannon Wedge, because it's an area where we're going to be delivering the listening stations. So we're working with community groups to do 2 workshops. The first workshop will be involve clay making, which is going to sort of be making different animals or icons essentially for kind of what means a lot to you in the area. And then that's going to be turned into an amelium cast, which is then going to adorn the listening post and sort of decorate it. And then the second workshop is going to be essentially recording for the listening station. So it's going to be a QR code which plays back what this community group thinks of the area, sort of what the positive impact that they've had on the area is, and sort of tell the story essentially of the area through their eyes at each of these locations. And one of the ones that we're working on at the minute has been up at Cannon Wedge, and we worked with, again, Aldsley Cannon Wedge Conservation Society and also Aldsley Primary School. We've delivered the first session of that, which is the clay workshop, and we're kind of just facilitating the date for the next one to kind of get the recording of that. And that's been kind of expanded into 3 stations as well that'll be installed across the wedge. So they'll be kind of put around the wedge area where people can scan the QR code and essentially listen to the community's input into the area. That's a bit of a visualization. I've kind of already described it, and I'm quite conscious of time, so I won't stick around for too much on that, but that's a sort of visualization of what the post will look like when it's kind of decorated with those aluminium casts as well. So I've kind of chosen this slide as kind of introduction to the design theory, essentially, for the interpretation that we're delivering across many different sites, mainly because just it's essentially the first site. But we've worked with an interpretation sort of consultant, sort of company that helps deliver interpretation, and we've put together essentially a design system which is going to be implemented across a lot of our key sites, so Cowan and Wedge, Lakeview Park, Charterhouse, and also Palmer Lane in the city centre. And it's going to kind of all look along this sort of similar feel of design, with this kind of wood feel and the sort of blue of the kind of project blue, which is also kind of symbolic of the Coventry River blue. And this is kind of what the interpretation is going to look like in terms of what we're looking to deliver. So interpretational panels, we're not limited and kind of only going to be putting out panels. We're quite keen on putting out interpretation which is very engaging and kind of sensory as well. But that's a sort of, example design of what some interpretation panels might look like. And we probably will do, a panel at some of our key sites as well. On the left, you can see some wayfinders there. So we're going to be delivering quite a few wayfinders each of those key areas to kind of help people find their way around the sites, because there's really quite minimal what's there at the minute. Yeah, and there's a few kind of other designs there, essentially, of kind of smaller interpretation posts and markers that can be scanned or can be used for sort of rubbing or kind of leaf rubbing, for example. So at Cowan and Wedge in particular, we're proposing a couple of different things. These again are sort of still to be approved and are sort of in the indicative ideas essentially stage. But this is what we're kind of looking at the minute. Potentially some sort of interpretative bench that might be engraved with the path of the river. Over one of the bridges, we're looking at potentially putting in a rail-mounted lectern, which will then look over towards the wetlands and might have some integration with phones to be able to kind of capture that change in the area over time. And then one of the other bigger things we're kind of considering in terms of our budget and how we might output it is potentially a kind of a further seating, potentially through an amphitheatre, or kind of a sort of collective seating area on the wedge, which will obviously improve access, but also be a space to kind of engage the public and for events to be held, or people, it's sort of a gathering and dwelling space for people as well. I've talked a lot about Cowan and Wedge. Let's move on. Gupplebrook is one of the areas that we have been delivering a sort of community intervention in the area, especially with the local volunteers. And we've kind of been doing a monthly volunteer session there for the last couple of years. So it's a kind of site we've worked in quite closely. Now we've got a volunteering session there with delivered by Joe on the second Wednesday of each month, and that tends to kind of look and tackle it kind of litter picking, some invasive species removal, and kind of some in-river works as well to kind of improve the state of the river there. We also in the area installed a mural which went underneath the bridge at Buckingham Rise, and we kind of did that as a kind of community mural with a lot of the local community. This was on the back of an otter mural which was painted by artist Michael Batchelor, and the local community loved it that much that then we worked with them to kind of deliver a community mural in the space. Unfortunately, there was an incident with that where it was vandalised recently last year. But then we essentially worked again with the local community to recreate the mural. So it's kind of slightly changed, but we've been working with again the same mural artist and again the local community to recreate that as well. So that's a lovely mural to go and visit. And then a few more of the sort of things we've delivered in the area. We've worked with Worbley School and also been installing some pinned wood as well, which is kind of essentially a kind of a natural feature which would encourage a bit more meandering in the river as well, which we'll talk about a bit in terms of the purpose of that when it comes to Lakeview Park and understanding some of the things we delivered there as well. Okay, which leads us on to Lakeview Park. So we'll talk a little bit about the restoration works, some work with Friends of Lakeview Park Group, the volunteering sessions that we deliver there as well, and some events and some interpretation again. So really early on into the project, and potentially even the pre-project as well, we've had a sort of interest in the space at Lakeview Park. And some of the earliest features that we delivered were these pinned wood features, which I mentioned we'll talk about. So as you can see on the left, that's kind of an early installation of the feature, and you can just start to see some of the deposition behind the pinned wood. And obviously what it does essentially is kind of change the flow pattern of the river to kind of encourage deposition and kind of slow the water on the hand side where the pinned wood is, which then increases deposition. So it kind of helps this natural meandering along the river. And that is for multiple purposes. It essentially is kind of, more natural. It encourages diversity in flow speeds as well, because historically the rivers were very cut and straightened. So the diversity in the flow speeds and the kind of diversity in habitats is what we're looking for by doing this sort of natural feature. And naturally, trees that are alongside rivers would have fallen branches and logs that would go into a river that obviously some can cause problems, and obviously that for example the river rangers have to deal with in terms of removing it if it presents a blockage. But it's a sort of very, very natural way of restoring some kind of features and extra diversity to the water. One of the other things we delivered early on was the removal of a weir. So essentially what we did, rather than remove the weir itself because it was underneath a public access bridge, we mitigated the weir, which meant that we essentially bypassed it. So the reason for this is because a weir presents a barrier to fish migration, so fish can't migrate upstream, and it also takes some energy out of the water, which changes kind of some of the natural deposition that we're talking about as well. So the way we did that is installing a riffle structure just south of the weir, which raised the water levels enough to the point where essentially it kind of mitigated the weir and was over the weir. So again, that allowed for fish migration upstream, and the riffle feature as well allowed for that kind of keeping of the sound of the water flowing over the river that a lot of people love when they kind of walk past some of these features or walk by the river in general. So there's a little before and after picture there you can see of where the water level rose to kind of mitigate the weir. That was only a small thing that we delivered. The rest of the work in Lakeview Park that we delivered was a really, really large capital works scheme. So it involved lots and lots of different elements, and essentially the main purpose of the kind of the work that we've done in the park is to increase the water storage of the area, is to make the natural features that we see in terms of kind of where some of the water naturally collects and stores in a sort of seasonal kind of period. So when there's flooding events where the water collects, and make those slightly more permanent so that there can be more permanent habitats for wildlife, and there can also be sort of water storage as well. So that was why we delivered some of the ponds and scrapes. So the difference between those is just in terms of the depth down, but also kind of it's a different habitat as well. So it increases diversity of habitats for the wildlife that's in the park, and different birds might use different kind of features, and obviously similar for some of the invertebrates as well in those spaces. There's a very, very large pond that we installed towards the south of the park, which I'm not sure if we've got a picture of within this as well. But we also did some in-river works as well. So similar to kind of how the pinned wood encourages this natural meandering, we did some channel widening to, again, kind of encourage its natural meandering pattern. But it also then meant that both wildlife and people could get down to kind of access the river more as well. We created some wetlands as well, which similarly to the ponds and scrapes increases the water storage of the area as well, but can also be uptaken by a lot more wetland plants, which really helps with carbon storage as well. We also removed some sediment deposits under one of the bridges, which meant that the river only had the one path underneath Four Palms Avenue, which is on the right of the park, as you can see on that picture. And that path, I think, went through a culvert as well. So again, it's about mitigating that for increasing access for migration for fish upstream. And the removal of that sediment deposit allowed the water then to go into some of these wetland features that we've talked about, and including some of the historic wetland as well that was put in before the project started. Okay. Try to very much whistle stop cover that, but again, similarly with some of the restoration projects that I've talked about previously, if you go to the project updates section of our website online, you can find out a lot more information about kind of why we've done some things, some of the positives, and again, some pictures as well and examples. So that's a picture of the large pond that was installed towards the south of the park. So again, kind of some example pictures. So it really was a very large scale restoration effort, that was. But that's not all we've done in the park. So we have a really regular volunteering effort, which when Alex was in the post, we did 2 volunteering sessions a month, once on a Monday and once on a Saturday. And we initially did a lot of work in Grayswood section of the park. We installed a path around that area and kind of cut back a lot of the sort of the bramble and the sort of the ways that we're blocking access to paths through the area, so it kind of can be engaged by people, but also it meant that there was a lot of invasive species as well that were cut back, and the area is maintained a lot better for wildlife as well. So that was kind of some of the early delivering, and we upskilled a lot of the local volunteers as well there, to the point where a lot of the sort of people who engage with our project over that long period of time, we supported them in the setting up of a Friends of group in the area, which I'll talk about briefly in a moment. But we've recently restarted, now that Nelson's into the role, we've restarted a new volunteering work party in that space as well, and that'll be on the 4th Monday of each month. Again, so that'll be another monthly work party, and doing similar things in terms of habitat management as well. So the Friends of Lakeview Park group was set up in January 2025, and they meet, they kind of have 2 volunteering sessions a month as well. They've got a little Facebook group as well, so you can kind of join them, and that'll be really key in terms of the legacy of the project as well, in terms of making sure that that space and the park is really looked after by local people. And we're working closely throughout this year as well to continue to support that Friends of group. We're going to be co-delivering a lot of events with them as well, and we've got planned in as well. We're looking at maybe seeing if we can do some sort of summer kind of party in the park sort of style event, where we kind of invite families along and start to engage people as well with the space, because a lot of people actually don't know about Lakeview Park, which is, it's kind of tucked away a little bit behind Holyhead Road essentially, and a lot of people are aware of that location but don't know that there's such a big lovely park quite close to it. So I mentioned a bit about the volunteering again, and the Riverfly we've touched on, but some of the local people that we've worked with in the space continue to deliver Riverfly off their own back that we've trained up as well. So we continue to get that data and feedback in terms of the health of the local ecosystem as well. So that's really, really positive. And we continue to still do and support Riverfly training in the area as well. So in terms of interpretation, this is a kind of very quick sort of similar to with Cowan and Wedge, a pull out of some of the things that were designed and proposed in terms of interpretation. So similarly, we're looking at rail mounted lecterns, an interpretational panel, and potentially some other ways to kind of engage in the space as well. So we're looking at maybe doing a sort of temporary mural along the path, encouraging some artwork and some play as well within that space. But again, it's very much similar kind of early days with that. and we're kind of still to get approval on some of those. But those are some of the early plans. Within that as well is the listening station that we're delivering with Friends of Lakeview Park Group as the kind of community group for that space. So that's another feature will be delivered in the park as well. Okay. Just to quickly touch on some other areas that kind of aren't really big areas that we're working on, but some other things that we've delivered throughout the project. So we've installed a stone berm and removed a weir at the Jacobean Hotel, which is a little bit further down the river past Lakeview Park. And then also Pickford Brook as well. We've removed a weir there and made that a lot more natural, as you can see by the pictures on the right-hand side. That was quite a very, when I talked about the kind of difference in the catchment sort of area, which was very urbanized and needed to be kind of renaturalized where it could as well. Next key area is the city centre. So there's a lot of different areas within the city centre as a whole that we've delivered. So I've tried to kind of summarise it a bit where I can. So I'll talk a bit about some of the events that we've held in the city centre, because it's very much a space where it's very key to engage people with the river and engage people within nature, where in a traditionally urban environment they can't actually interact with the river because it's inaccessible to them because it's in the culvert, for example. The river festivals, which I've mentioned, and then look at some interpretation that's being proposed, as well as some of the work in Spon End. So I believe it was March 2023. We had a photo exhibition at the Dealey Derbyshire building, which is one of the at the time it was a new building by the Coventry University. So we had people from all over the whole River Sherbourne catchment submit their pictures of the local area, and we kind of put it on an exhibition as well, where people could come and have a look at it and see essentially all different areas along the river and find nice places to go to as well, and talk to people about their local area. And we tended to find at the event as well, a lot of people were really passionate about what was local to them, and some of the photos were historic as well. So people were talking about their previous experiences on the river, and it was lovely to see. You can see our project mascot behind there waving at us. She was also named during the photo exhibition as well. So we did the kind of public survey for the naming of Lady Gooddiver, and then put out a kind of survey poll. Yeah, the pun-worthy name won out in the end. Again, Lady Gooddiver is really key to really engage, especially young audiences, but also many other audiences as well, through the city centre essentially. And one of the events that we've supported in the past has been the Move for Fun event, where lots of Coventry different mascots throughout Coventry have a bit of a race and have a bit of fun essentially, and engage with a lot of people in War Memorial Park. And you can see on the right hand side there, Lady Gooddiver celebrating when they beat the I think it was the otter mascot from Coventry University. Can't quite remember the name of the otter. Ellie Ott, I think it was, or something like that. But yeah, Lady Gooddiver is a bit of a sore winner. City Nature Challenge. I've included it here, but essentially we cover the whole range of key sites when we talk about City Nature Challenge. So at the end of April each year, the last weekend of April, there's an international competition to support essentially wildlife identification. So it's a 4-day long weekend, so Friday through Monday, where people are encouraged to get out in nature and use the iNaturalist app, which is an app that you can kind of download for your phones and different devices, and scan different wildlife that you see, and it will give you recommendations of what that might be. And then you can start to learn wildlife identification. And then if you're kind of new to it yourself, a lot of other people in the area will, some of the more expert people will go on and verify your records for you, or kind of tell you, actually, no, you've got it wrong, it's this species. And it just helps people learn wildlife identification. But it's also great for records for the local area as well. So we work with Warwickshire Biological Records Centre and Coventry City Council Ecology Team to kind of help organise the events that happen. But there's a lot of other different organisations as well, the Canal and Rivers Trust and Warwick University and Coventry University, to name a couple, that also support and host events over this weekend. So we've got loads planned in for this year. I believe most of those should be on our project website and our project Eventbrite collection as well. So yeah, we're looking at delivering bat walks. I believe we might be doing pond dipping as well, tree ID, all sorts essentially over the long weekend through different areas. So Charterhouse, Lakeview Park, Cannon Wedge, and then in Whitley as well. So that's a really good weekend to participate in. It's all free, it's all fun. You can do it anywhere, but obviously if your records go to Warwickshire, that's preferred if you do it in this area. But if you're out the place, it's a great competition to get involved with. And we really heavily support that each year as part of the project. And we're kind of in discussions about how to kind of continue supporting that going forward from the Warwickshire Wildlife Trust. So there's a couple of other events just quickly just to talk about that we've supported. We've done poetry workshops, we've done amphibian ID, we have a regular monthly session as well in War Memorial Park where we do nature-based crafts and activities. It's now a nature-based crafts for adults, and we've also got a current ongoing well-being 5 Ways to Wellbeing event in the space as well. We've done audio walks in Spon End. We've done interfaith events, a whole host of many different events. Talk to Helen if you want to hear any more, because the amount of events we're delivering each year is, I believe we're kind of on target for kind of maybe 200 plus each year. So that's pretty crazy. There's a whole host of things we do in the city centre and some of the other sites that we've mentioned as well. Just going to check how we're doing for time. Okay, I've got to speed things up. If people, by the way, we are recording, for anyone else who's come in lately as well. We are recording this as well, so if you do have to head off and leave at any point, feel free to do so, and we will upload this to our project YouTube and our Facebook as well, and link to that. So yeah, you won't miss anything, but we'll kind of record and upload that as well. We're 2/3 of the way through, I'd say. So River Festival, this is our annual event where we put on loads of different things to engage the public. We did our first one in Coventry Transport outside Coventry Transport Museum in Millennium Place, and that was supported by a whole host of different organisations and the Coventry River Cultural Consortium, which was kind of helped funding by the High Street Heritage Action Zone scheme as well, within the city centre. And yeah, we have music, we have storytelling, we have live mural painting, we have face painting, a whole host of different things, some pictures from different years as well. We have Lady Gooddiver come out and interact with people. We have live theatre performances from Coventry University. I've mentioned a bit before, so I won't dwell on it too much, but a whole host of stuff. It's an absolute ball of fun. And sadly, I missed it this last year, but obviously, as I mentioned at the start of this call, I did have the paternity leave at that time, so unfortunately I couldn't be there. But I heard it was absolutely fantastic this last year as well. And yeah, chalk drawing as well of a river through the area is one of the other things I hadn't mentioned. In terms of festivals, while we're talking about it, we also have a stall at Godiva Festival each year, and we kind of have a whole host of different things there. We've got sound buttons that Helen created, where it's a bit of a guessing game, so you kind of trying to guess the sound of different wildlife. We've got lots of different crafty things. We've created sort of pressed wildflower bracelets. Yeah, a whole host of different things as well. So we come find us if you go into Godiva Fest. No doubt we'll probably be supporting. Now, moving past events slightly, in terms of kind of interpretation of some of the other things we've delivered in the city centre space. Early on into the project, we had a contract to go down with a laser scanner, and we scanned the culvert through the whole length of the culvert. And we've got that now as a sort of digital recreation of the culvert through the city centre. Now, we've hosted a big exhibition, which I believe was in March. Was that 2024, I think, rather than 2025? And yeah, kind of there's a slide on that, so I'll touch upon that a bit more. But what we're looking to do with that going forwards, as we're in the process of creating a digital trail which will go through Coventry city centre, where there'll be several QR points to scan, and that can show you essentially where you are standing beneath your feet, and it will kind of talk about the river. It will place you in sort of a kind of 360 viewer, so you can look around and see what the culvert looks like beneath your feet, while you hear about kind of some of the history of the culvert below you as well. So that'll be a really interesting way to kind of highlight to people that actually there's a river below your feet where you're standing in the city centre. So I did briefly mention the exhibition. There was a whole host of different things there. We had video fly-throughs. We had pictures of some of the wildlife that was down there. We had written accounts of people who've been down into the culvert as well. And we, on one of the days, came along with a VR headset and actually let people manually fly up and down through the culvert to kind of pop up and down in the areas and kind of see where the river was directly above as well, because we scanned the city centre above, so you can kind of see exactly where the river is below your feet, which is really, really interesting. We've supported the delivery of a really large interpretation wall in the lower precinct. So this is just as you go into the Sherbourne Arcade. There's 6 panels across the wall, and each of that has a whole host of different information about the river, and about some of the kind of history of the local areas as well, including Spon End, some of the working mills, and then it's a big timeline as well, as you can see on that picture on the right hand side. And just some further history as well, so kind of talking about the Roman times as well, and essentially what Coventry used to be like way back in the day, before kind of it was settled. So do have a look next time you go shopping. Go to Lower Precinct and yeah, have a look at some of the information in this interpretation wall. So we're in the process of delivering some interpretation as well at St Catherine's Well, and repairing and replacing the gate that was there. So for those who don't know, St Catherine's Well is a sort of small, currently non-functional well that's in Beaumont Crescent, which is kind of just nearish Lakeview Park and off Holyhead Road. And yeah, we're replacing the gate there and kind of including some information about it in terms of kind of the relationship that people had with the river, and talking about the sort of history of how we use water as well. So we're in the process of kind of getting the approval on the planning permission for there to deliver the replacement of the gate and some interpretation there as well. Okay. Oh, went ahead too far. Palmer Lane, obviously many people are aware that there's been a big project in Palmer Lane to deculvert the space. So there was a small section within the Palmer Lane space in the sort of Burgess area of the city centre, where you can actually the river is daylighted, and it's kind of you can actually see the river, and it's not in a culvert. That area has been expanded by a big project by Coventry City Council and supported by Historic Coventry Trust as well, and that is opening up the river and making it kind of accessible to people, essentially as a space to engage people with the river and with nature in a really urban setting as well. So that's a big project that's been underway. It's not currently open to the public and currently released, but the majority of the work is done. It's essentially just a few issues around essentially the bins in the area. So they're kind of working with some of the local businesses to kind of format a way to reduce the number of bins that are in the area as well, and also to replant some of the trees that were damaged sort of during I believe it was Storm Claudia towards the later end of last year as well. So just a couple of more sort of snaggy bits of work to fully unveil it to the public at a point where it's actually essentially looking beautiful. So we're going to also support that with some interpretation in the space, and it's probably going to come in the form of either a mural or some poetry. So we're looking at doing that on potentially some of the steps or the entrance point back into the culvert as well. We're in discussions with the Coventry City Council communications team and the planning department as well to kind of further progress those ideas and get those in place before the opening of the Palmer Lane as well. Okay. Moving slightly almost towards the end of the city centre section, we've done lots of engagement in the Spon End area. So we usually each year we've kind of hosted at least one river cleanup day to kind of clean up the space. There's a big project at the minute to by Citizen Housing to kind of redevelop that area. That we're kind of supporting them in the delivery of, to kind of make sure that it's a sort of ecologically rich river park that's going to have lots of different features in it as well, to kind of function as a sort of play area as well, that people can kind of start to be encouraged to engage with the riverbanks and with the river as well. Okay, Charterhouse. So this is kind of we're getting towards the south of the river now, so we're kind of approaching towards the end. I'll have a quick sip of my drink and then I'll speed up and continue to ramble. So yeah, you've had a moment there to look at what we're talking about. Rather than talk about everything twice, I'm going to speed things up and go to the next slide. So at Charterhouse, we've also done some recent restoration work. So similar to Lakeview Park, we've done some insert berms within the banks to kind of encourage that meandering. So obviously, whereas Lakeview Park, we did some bank lowering in some of the areas to kind of allow engagement with the banks. In this space, we've done that a little bit in some areas along the one side of the river. The other area we couldn't because of the historical kind of essentially significance of the area. But we've also installed some brash berms. So those are essentially kind of sediment and be non-permanent features, but they'll encourage this natural meandering in the river over time. We also added some rounded pebbles as well, which then provide some better habitat for fish breeding, because a lot of the existing stones that were in the bottom of the river were very much kind of rubble from the bombing in the war, and there weren't kind of these rounded pebbles which were good for oxygenating the water, and as the pebbles that breeding fish need as well. And the main feature is we delivered what's called an online pond. So this is a pond that is connected to the river via a small kind of pathway of water, which means then that it kind of makes it a really good refuge for fish fry and, you know, fish to kind of breed in as well. We've also seen some young grey herons using the space as well. And we've recently installed, very recently installed a pond dipping platform as well, and also a path around this as well. So yeah, lots of restoration work done in that space. We've got some river rambles which are throughout the whole of Coventry, but quite a lot of them start and are involved around Charterhouse as an area. So I believe that you can, within Charterhouse, when you go into the building, you should be able to kind of scan and pick up a copy of this Charterhouse Nature Trail that's there as well. And that's just one of the river rambles that we've been creating. But yeah, that's one that you can access directly from Charterhouse. And there's quite a few that kind of lead from Charterhouse into the city centre, that kind of a particularly history relevant one as well that goes from Charterhouse. And Helen's been working on creating ones for Spon End as well, and the Whitley area. And so we're kind of in the process of getting those available online, which are done, and I just need to upload. So they're going to be put on by the end of this week. So there's a lot more resources there as well for the river rambles. And these are trails that are kind of self-led trails, which you can follow by a QR code. So you can kind of see the point by point on Google Maps. So we created it using Google My Maps, and also have lots of different sections as well, where you stop at each area, and it kind of has some information on the printout document as well. So there's kind of two ways which you can engage with it. Also at Charterhouse, we've delivered an activity book, which is kind of really sort of family orientated, but it can, to be fair, I find it fun as well. It might just be me. But it's got loads of different sort of puzzles in there. It's got a sort of map of the area where you can kind of have a little bit of a tick list for things to see. It's got a sort of a word search, sort of spot the difference. And it's, yeah, we've got loads of those printed and delivered to Charterhouse as well. So if you're going into the building, you can pick up a copy of those. If you head to www.sherburnevalley.co.uk/activity-books, you can also find a link to the activity book and print it out from our website online as well. If you kind of want to kind of print out the resource and go, if you're going on a day where the Charterhouse building isn't open, for example. That's just one of the activity books we're doing. We're in the process of finalising just 2 of the other activity books, which will be a Lady Gooddiver storybook and a general activity book for the whole of the Sherbourne, which can be taken to any site. And those are almost finished. They're just being coloured. So they'll be released soon as well. Volunteering in Charterhouse. So now that Nelson's kind of settled into the new role as well, he's starting up and delivering a new volunteering offer for Charterhouse, which is going to be on the 3rd Friday of each month. And again, that's kind of, supporting some of the local volunteers in the area. Similarly to kind of some of the other areas, mitigating, kind of supporting habitat management in the area as well. Nelson's also started up the Ecology Club, which used to be an ongoing group within the Charterhouse space, which kind of died down a little bit with the changeover of hands between Historic Country Trust and National Trust, as that kind of ownership changed, and obviously as Alex, who would kind of be the person who was delivering the role, changed the role as well. Nelson's restarted that group up, so we're doing that on the 1st Friday of each month going forwards. He's already done the first one, I believe, this month, and it's essentially a really kind of gateway entrance into wildlife identification as well. So you can kind of start to support with surveys in the local area. You can kind of be upskilled and trained in how to do that, and also, learn more in terms of wildlife identification. Junior Rangers, I've mentioned that here. We started that off in Lakeview Park. So Jen, our training officer, started up Junior Rangers because she kind of noticed a sort of gap for developing practical conservation experience in young people. So so people aged 11 to 18 can come along and start to learn practical conservation skills. She has that once a month. She started that at Lakeview Park and was kind of working with some of the Friends of Lakeview Park group as well to support that. But she's recently moved it to Charterhouse for this month, and she might be kind of hosting it there in some of the upcoming months as well, which then also means that because of the fact that it's got a cafe and facilities there, some of the parents can kind of stay on site and go to the cafe while Jen delivers the session as well, which is kind of helping some people. Okay. One of the events that we've delivered in the space is the Blossom Together event, which we did with National Trust. So there was a whole load of blossom trees which were being installed as kind of part of National Trust project, and at the same time we facilitated some really archaeological prospecting digs to kind of understand the archaeology of the area. So that came out from some scanning that we did, ground penetrating radar scanning that we did through the area, because obviously we were looking to deliver some of these features when we delivered the restoration work. So we wanted to kind of make sure that we were checking the sort of historical archaeology within the area, and make sure we were delivering the features in spaces that weren't of any archaeological significance. But that was really, really fun. The people kind of got a bit of a practice and kind of a keen eye for archaeology there as well. And I believe they've been either organising or trying to organise kind of future events in a similar manner as well in that space. So yeah, that's a sort of one of the examples of events we've delivered there. We also tend to support the delivery of events during the Easter period at Charterhouse. So kind of we've got plans to support National Trust there a lot this year. So we're going to be holding stalls, taking people on guided walks as well through the space. Maybe some pond dipping sessions as well we're looking at, depending on weather. And then obviously we can encourage the use of the River Ramble and the activity books as well as part of that. So keep an eye out on that when it comes to kind of the spring period. And we also have a monthly wellbeing session as well that we run in the Charterhouse space that I think we might be kind of moving some locations as well this year with that. But yeah, that's a sort of monthly session that we've often held at the at Charterhouse as well as a wellbeing session. Okay, I need another quick sip of water. Bear with me, please. It's a lot of talking, a lot of things to cover. So interpretation. So there's a sluice gate and a viaduct at Charterhouse, which are kind of two of the built heritage features that we talked about that we really want to kind of tell the story of in the space as well. So we're going to be delivering some interpretation features for those. So we're looking at maybe some sort of viewfinder for the viaduct, so we can kind of really enhance the view and kind of show people essentially what they can see with the viaduct, and kind of tell some history as well through that. And then similarly for the sluice gate, we're looking at perhaps doing some sort of audio description as well to kind of tell people about the purpose of the sluice gates and the kind of why they were used in the war, obviously to be dropped and to be a kind of a quick storage of water to be able to be used for the fire service as well. So those are kind of some of the features that we're delivering in the Charterhouse area, but we're looking at a bit more as well. And we might be delivering a panel. We've got another listening station project for Charterhouse as well. And we're looking at potentially some other engaging interpretation, which can be more sensory based as well, to kind of align with some of the other features we've delivered in the area, the activity books, the wellbeing walks, and the river rambles, for example. We've also got that pond dipping platform as well. So we'll probably be doing some interpretation to support that. Whitley, we've got a volunteering session in Whitley, which we do each month. Now that's the 4th Thursday of each month, and Joe hosts those. So we've been doing a lot of invasive species management there. I know there's been a bit of cherry laurel removed in the past. And again, that's kind of a similar regular volunteering group where they kind of do some litter picking as well, and lots of delivery of some further river restoration efforts, and some of that's kind of in river. We're looking at doing a bit more of that going forwards as well, and potentially doing some further prospecting for some further kind of restoration in the area as well. So keep an eye out for that. Yeah, we've also done some wellbeing sessions in the past. So the one that I mentioned that's in War Memorial Park at the minute in the city centre, previously we've delivered that in the Whitley space as well. So we've kind of delivered a lot of wellbeing support for people in that area. Okay, that's most of the areas. So now I'll just kind of quickly cover some of the other events that I haven't managed to talk about that we support, and then I'll go on to kind of almost wrap things up if I can. So while the Families Fest is a sort of festival that's held at Brandon Marsh through Watch Your Wildlife Trust each year, and we support that through a stall. We also through the National Arterial Heritage Funding, we are able to support in the delivery of kind of transport and lunch for some people in I think CV1, CV3 and CV5 postcodes, but don't take my word for that at the minute for the exact postcodes. But we're able to facilitate a kind of morning for people within Coventry to kind of support taking them to that festival as well, and making sure that everyone has the right to access nature festivals as well. I've mentioned a few times throughout this, we've got a project website. Please do check it out. It's got loads of resources online. We're regularly updating our project news and things as well. We're going to be uploading our project, this project update to there as well. So if you kind of want to, if you've sped through things too much, or if you want to revisit a slide, you'll be able to watch it there or on our project YouTube as well. A couple of other quick things. I've mentioned the ecology group. I mentioned the volunteering work parties, but we've also done some bushcraft with the wellbeing team. We've done some tote bag printing, a whole host of other events as well that probably haven't been mentioned, that Helen might be shaking her fists at me perhaps, but I'm trying my best to cover everything. But yeah, there's so many more events that we deliver in different spaces as well. So always keep an eye out for those on our project website, on our project Eventbrite, and on our socials as well. A big thing that we tend to do each year, as mentioned when we were talking about Calne and Wedge, is the sort of tackling of invasive Himalayan balsam. We've got a big push this year as well to do it. We're also going to be we're looking to throw 2 balsam and bites parties that we kind of did last year. So we did one where we kind of had a Himalayan balsam tackling in Lakeview Park, and we kind of celebrated with some of the volunteers afterwards with some pizza as well that the project bought for everyone. And we're looking to do 2 of those this year to kind of really launch engaging people with trying to help with kind of tackling the Himalayan balsam along the river, because it's a really difficult to manage invasive species that takes a lot of community effort. Training. So There's a lot of different training that we've put on in different areas as well. So we've done some meadow management training, hand scything training, mental health first aid training. Even more, we've done outfall safari training. I've talked about the river fly training that we do, and wildflower and plant ID. We've done amphibian identification, reptile identification, whole host of things. Jen's always on the ball with kind of supplying several different training types each month. Outfall safari and river fly are quite consistent, so you can kind of expect to see them at least once every other month or so, depending on obviously the kind of weather conditions as well, for some of them. And I'll briefly talk about training again further on. So, this is it. I think it's kind of, we're approaching towards the end now. So, just as a sort of quick note, essentially for legacy and for kind of what we're talking about for the future of the project, I've talked as much as I can about what we've delivered in the spaces and kind of what our current offer is in terms of the whole host of volunteering sessions that we've got going on each month to kind of upskill and empower kind of people in the local areas to continue to look after wildlife in the spaces that we've engaged with, so that once the project is over, we've got this sort of lasting legacy where the River Sherbourne is, easier to know about, easier to protect, and there's kind of an existing base of people that support nature in that area as well. We've got quite a bit of budget left to support that and help facilitate that. So we're kind of asking you as volunteers or people that are kind of potentially new to engaging with the project as well, that we've got a lot of training budget to potentially offer for different things. So we're kind of talking regularly during our volunteer work parties about, what might you kind of like to try and do in terms of supporting the area, and can we support that through our training budget to provide training for using certain tools. If it's storage means, or kind of the purchasing of some tools and kind of provision of tools to your community group, we can have those discussions. If you're looking to volunteer or want to volunteer, but you have any means which kind of prevent that from happening, so it could be you've got, you need childcare, you kind of don't have any transport to be able to get to our events. We've got a transport and volunteering expenses budget where we can actually help facilitate that for you. So please do actually kind of take full advantage of that, and make sure that you really take in while we've got the project going to kind of help upskill you and help support you in starting to kind of deliver some of the restoration of the area, and really engage with the space as well, because it does mean a lot to protect your local area. And we'd love to support that as much as we can. So any suggestions that you have regarding that, or kind of, if you want to contact us about that for any reason, please email us at sherbourne@wkwt.org.uk. That's written on the screen towards the bottom of the paragraph as well there. And we can kind of talk about how we can support you. Right, that's pretty much it. Just to kind of wrap a couple of things up by a couple of quick slides. We've got monthly newsletters. They'll be going out probably towards the end of this week. We've got monthly ones. So we've got an events newsletter and a volunteers newsletter. So if you want to find out more about the project, what we're doing in terms of all the different events we've talked about, all the different volunteering offers we've got, and or if you just want a kind of an easy way to interact with it, if you sign up to our newsletters, you'll be able to kind of have quick and easy links essentially to all the kind of monthly events that we've got going on and the monthly volunteering ways. So it's just a kind of quick and easy way to be able to sign up. So you can email us again to ask to sign up to that, or you can go onto our project website where there's a section for sign up to our newsletters. You can fill out a contact form, and then we can add you into our newsletter. I'm a comms officer. Please do follow us online. As I said, we're doing a big social push during February. So do follow us, and kind of there's going to be a lot more we're going to be talking about. We're going to be sharing this talk as well on our socials as a recording. So please do follow us. Support me in my job as well in terms of doing that. That would be brilliant. Thank you. And then thank you. There we go. That's it. I'll stop sharing now. And move that to the screen instead.
Thank you,
Uh,
Jordan, for that. That was a
just double check.
really informative, detailed presentation. Appreciate that.
Thanks,
I
Nicola.
hope that's covered everything that you wanted to hear from us on the update today. If you've got any further questions, we'll hang around for a little while you can pop them into the chat and we can cover that. But you can also contact us via email, which is Sherbourne at wkwt.org.uk. And if you see us out and about, we do tend to wear hoodies or uniform of some sort, which indicates that we're with the Sherbourne Valley Project. And you are always welcome to come and talk to us, because to be honest, we all love talking about the Sherbourne Project and would happily chew your ear off with that one.
As you can tell, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of information there, a lot of information to take in. There's going to be a few more of these updates over the year, aren't there, Jordan?
Yes, I've got a few more planned in. I can't remember the dates off the top of my head, but obviously they'll be advertised similarly to kind of how they were for this one. So we'll be putting out a lot of information about them on the socials. And then again, we can look to record those as well, and upload those too. We're going to be kind of in building legacy a bit more as we go forward in terms of the project updates. So we're kind of going to be including a bit more information about, again, furtherly how we can support you going forwards, or any updates in terms of our volunteer groups. We might perhaps get some of our people that we work with to kind of provide some information to kind of, if, for example, the Friends of Lakeview Park would like, we can kind of, share a bit further details about them so that people can have, further things to go on to continue to see where they can support. I'm rambling now. I'm too used to talking too much. But future project updates, we're going to be talking a bit more about legacy as well. And we're going to be having some more, obviously, internal discussions on what we can do for legacy as well. So there'll be a lot more to update about as well next time.
Okay. And thank you, Helen, for providing all of those links in the chat as well. That's really helpful. You were really on the ball with all of that. They're pinging before I could even think about where on earth I might even find them.
I've tried to have a little look at, just in case there was any questions. And yeah, she's absolutely on the ball. There's links everywhere. So yeah, thank you, Helen. It was really helpful. Okay. It looks like we've mainly just got thank yous. So we'll kind of stop it there. But if we have spotted any kind of other questions in the chat, we can drop you an email to answer that. I can, as I said, I'll be uploading this onto our project update section of our website. So if there's anything we haven't managed to answer today, or that's kind of for the benefit of multiple people to answer, I'll include that within there. But yeah, thank you. You've been brilliant. You listened to me ramble, and do email us at sherbourne@wkwt.org.uk if you want to get in touch about anything else.